welcome to the very first Beer for Breakfast ABV of 2019. Yeah. I am Danielle from The Moog Show on 91X, and as always, I've got my beer drinking partner in crime with me, Paul Segura, brewmaster from Karl Strauss. How was your holiday?
Excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good to have you back.
Lots of beers. Good to be back.
Yeah. So we're kicking off 2019 with a really big, well-known brewery. They are still family-operated, still independent, and that is Sierra Nevada. We have Anthony and Chris with us
thanks
today.
for having us. Hi, everybody.
Good to have you guys.
Welcome to 91X, guys.
Cheers. Thank you for having us.
Cheers. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Sierra Nevada opened in 1980,
That's
right?
correct.
So you guys were doing this forever ago, it seems like now. So let's see what that's, I can't do math.
39 years. 39 years this year, yeah.
So 40 next year, and it's still family operated,
Independently owned, family operated, 100%.
Ken Grossman.
That is amazing.
Ken Grossman.
That's
Ken Grossman
awesome.
and then Brian Grossman and Sierra Grossman.
Wow, that's so awesome.
You start out on a little tiny system, like a 3-barrel or something like that.
Made from repurposed dairy equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's cool. We were at the
Yeah.
brewery recently. We actually got to see the original.
No way.
Yeah, and I sent my girlfriend back a picture of me standing next to her. She's like, "What is this, garbage?" I was like, "No, this is where else. This is the basis
You're
of my
like, do you
employment."
know what this is?
Yeah.
Ken used to do all the brewing, all the sales, like make deliveries in his own truck and
Bottle
all
line,
that
yeah,
stuff.
whole
And
thing.
now
Yeah.
look.
Yeah,
Huge.
it's kind of funny because he always would say that 90% of the people that he first took it to hated it, but the 10% who loved it really loved it. And I think that's stayed true through the test of time, and clearly that's one of the reasons why we're still around.
Yeah.
So it says a lot.
I would say that probably Sierra Nevada Pale Ale was a lot of people's first craft beer. It was my first craft beer that
One of
I
my
ever
first.
had. Yeah.
And homebrewers. Like I started homebrewing in '89, so it's been 30 years for me, but I would buy Sierra 6-packs and throw it in the fridge, and then just before homebrewing, kind of pour most of it out really slowly, save the slurry in the bottom, swirl it up, and pour it right into the fermenter.
Oh.
So many brewers, like they're still doing that actually.
Really?
It's good, clean source of
Cali
excellent
ale.
yeast.
Cali ale.
California.
I think it
ale
was
yeast.
just different
Chico
for its
ale,
time. Back
Yeah.
then there wasn't anything quite like it. The hops, the flavor that you got from it overall, and I think people just really took to it. And once they did, it just kind of opened up their palates, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, this change. And slowly people adapted to it, and then the ABV level's a little bit higher. You paid for it, but you always pay for something.
Well, I mean, not just pale ale either. Celebration still is a go-to
Celebration.
by everybody. Bigfoot. I mean, that's a beer I buy.
Coming out pretty soon.
I know, and that's a beer that I buy lots of and lay it down because I mean, Bigfoot, 8 years, 10 years, man, it's so good.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Well, before we started out with a fairly new beer for you guys, right?
Brand new.
Sierra Vesa. It is your guys' lager coming in at a 5%. Super crisp. It's just like the perfect all-around like hiking beer, going out and being a nature beer, sit around in your underwear and do nothing beer. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I do too.
This is a new beer
haven't
for us.
Sat around in my underwear and drank it.
Are you sure?
But
That's
Sunday
not what I
special?
heard.
I'll probably get to that pretty soon. Super quaffable, super soluble, very chillable.
Yeah, I was going to let Chris
I'd
go
like to
ahead
say
and
here.
talk a little bit about it. And
Yeah, it's kind of cool with Sierra Nevada. We've released a few different styles, and we were just talking about a little bit of the innovation before we got started here as we were drinking these. It's nice, we've come out a lot of new IPAs, a lot of different styles. To go back to just a nice, like easy lager, it's just kind of cool. When I open my fridge and I've got a ton of IPAs and a ton of different styles, it's nice to have something really like you mentioned.
Totally.
The word quaffable was
Right.
great. So
Yeah.
it's exciting for us to come out with a pretty simple offering, for your introductory craft drinkers or someone looking for something easy.
There's a time and a place for every beer, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're mowing the lawn out or whatever, sitting on a beach, I mean, or after a good hike or during a good hike, that's a perfect beer. I'd tear that up.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is a beer that I'm really, really excited that you guys brought with you. It was, in my own selfish reasons, really the biggest reason that I had you guys come on Beer for Breakfast, and that is the Resilience Brute County Proud IPA. If you have been living under a rock for some bizarro reason, Sierra Nevada basically guys put out the call, right? Actually, you guys tell me the story.
Well, you guys all know about the campfire that went on. It really devastated the entire town of Paradise, pretty much demolished it. And we lost, some of our employees lost their homes as well. We had about 50 employees that lost their homes with the campfire, but it wasn't just our employees, it was just the entire community overall. And I think it was sometime in late November where as all this was transpiring going on, and Ken had the great idea to try to figure out, well, what can we do? And how do we help those that are out of house and out of home and so on and so forth. And he kind of came up with the rest of the team, and they thought about doing Resilience IPA. So it was a really cool concept of how it kind of all came about. And the greatest thing about this is, honestly, it's all the 100% of the profits and the proceeds go to benefit those people who lost their houses, amongst other things.
That's super amazing. And I think I read that, 1,500 breweries across the country participated in this. And what was there? At least 50 in San Diego, right?
Yeah, at least.
You're floating around there.
Well, it's
and
funny.
I think the number I heard last was $15 million, man.
Yeah,
which is
projected
so far,
sales.
which is awesome. So cheers to that.
Yes.
Cheers to
Absolutely.
that.
That's what it's all about.
And I haven't gotten to try this yet either, so I'm just as intrigued as you guys are.
Here's to the 85 lives that were lost in the
Yes.
fire. To get-
Absolutely. So as you're tasting this beer, you're going to notice we were talking about celebration. Maybe a few similarities. The same hop, same ending, gravity, ABV, beginning. It's an interesting clone. It's a very close clone to.
It
to
is very
Celebration.
similar, isn't
yes.
it? It has a nice, sturdy, slightly toasty malt side of it, but then the hop kind of comes in and balances it all right out.
This is delicious.
This is delicious.
Well, and so I've had Karl Strauss's version, Society, Fall, Thorn, and Virgin. And I know there's another one out there that I can't think of off the top of my head. But it's amazing how, they all have their own little differences, their own little different tastes, and it's been really fun. And this one is, very different than all the other ones that I've had.
Yeah, I think what's cool is that, what this whole thing was about, it's about the community coming together, and that's the craft community as well. We have a lot of brothers and sisters out there, and they just wanted to pay their homage and do what they can, and that's why I think what the concept of this, by having each individual brewery brew their own style, it's a little piece of them with a little piece of us.
Yeah.
And I think that means a whole lot.
Yeah, there's something about people who are in the beer community. You would think that this is a community that, is almost cutthroat because everybody's trying to get their piece of the pie.
100%.
Everybody is trying to make a profit. I mean, this is a business and everyone's trying to make a profit. And I've never seen a community come together the way that the beer community comes. Each other needs one another, whether it's, I need malt, I need yeast, we're making this really awesome beer. If you want to be a part of it, please do. It's really, really unique that you don't see in a lot of other industries.
Yeah.
the only other industry that's close is like the music industry.
Yes.
Where bands will jam together
Collaborations,
or,
absolutely.
steal riffs with each other or whatever.
Benefit shows, etc.
Benefit shows, yes,
very similar
for
to
causes,
Celebrate.
absolutely.
Yeah, and what was interesting was, like you were saying too, Danielle, earlier, it started out with Ken was like, well, I'd be surprised, 200 people or 200 breweries get on board. And then that 200 turned to 400, 400 went up to 800, 800 went up to 1,500. It was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then to find out how much we've raised so far, and not only that, but it's all the side people too. That it's all the people out there that are making their own donations on the side and offering up money. I mean, Sierra Nevada donated money on the side as well as, donating, what we're doing right now with the profits and the proceeds.
Well, and I feel like I read someplace else that some of the suppliers also donated to the breweries the supplies, and got rid of the cost of the freights to come in and all of these different things, so that breweries are able to make this beer.
Brewer Supply Group.
Yeah, there was
donated a lot of
one.
grain.
There was one particular malt supplier that donated 70 metric tons for this project,
That's a lot of
and they
malt.
and along with the donation, they also waived all the shipping fees. So, like you said, it's not just the the name brand on the can. It's all the people that were able to make it happen.
Well, it's really hard for brewers to donate 100% of the
Absolutely.
proceeds, right? But 100%. That means they're losing money
Yeah,
on
it's
this
10 times
deal,
real
right?
estate. Absolutely.
They're not
Yeah.
even breaking even, but to have the malt suppliers or hop or purveyors kind of kick down some of that, they're not losing. It's everybody is kind of taking this upon themselves to kind of do some good.
And it's not only the breweries. I mean, you guys were just talking about it. So we have certain suppliers out there that have donated, and then it's our wholesalers as well. We go through a wholesaler down here, or 2 wholesalers down here, but for them to get behind us too just shows you that it is a family. We're a part of their portfolio, and that makes us a family member. So anytime that there is something like this that happens, it's really nice to see that they have our backs.
Well, and then the local brew pubs as well.
Yeah,
I know Regal Seagull did a huge night that was massive. O'Brien's did a really big night. And you continue to see them come out. Like I know the Black Plague, they just released theirs.
Absolutely.
There's a couple others that they're still trickling through. So you haven't gotten the chance to try some of these Resilience, because I know that some are gone too.
Right.
I know that Second Chance
There's
is
going to continue
already
to be a lot of money coming in. Beers are just now being tapped.
Yeah.
Some people were kind of late getting them brewed in.
Well, and I think that, like you were saying, Paul, that's what's cool about all the breweries being able to take their own recipe, and they've kind of got the logistics of it, but then they can kind of make it their own, is what's cool about it, because we only brewed so much of Resilience as well from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. And so with that being said, not everybody might be able to get to try our version of it, but they're going to be able to get to try a Resilience version ultimately at their local brew pub or somewhere like that, which is awesome.
That is super awesome.
Yeah, Ken kind of sent a recipe out to everybody.
Yeah.
And I think people kind of, once again, like musicians, they kind of like to make their own music. They kind of tweak the recipe a little bit.
Well, isn't that the cool thing about music, though? Is like everybody has their own formula. They have their own, kind of instruments that they like to play or what they like to put in. And
Totally.
I think that's what makes music so cool and why it resonates so well with the craft beer community.
Totally. Now, there was one other cool thing I saw. There's a brewery called Schilling that actually had the rights to the name Resilience.
Oh.
And not only did they allow Sierra to take the name for this beer, but they also said, could you guys come brew a big batch with us? And I saw pictures of Ken and a couple of other guys there brewing with them, and I thought,
I mean, if there's ever that cheers, let's cheers to that. 'Cause that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
That just right there shows the spirit of the whole community,
Yeah,
I think, Yeah.
Well, it's kind of cool. You see this whole project kind of embodies it. You look at 2019 as well. We started with the biggest fire in California history. And you saw Vinny and Natalie up at Russian River kind of champion the Sonoma Pride.
Right, yeah.
Right? And then to finish it with a fire that's on the same magnitude, and for the brewing community to come together for Resilience IPA this time was just pretty cool to finish it out like that.
It's heartwarming, man. I mean, I get a little choked up sometimes thinking about this. I want to
absolutely.
hug you guys right now.
Well, maybe you'll hug them after our next beer, because this one right
This
here.
one's brand new.
This is brand new. The Brute IPA. So, okay, we haven't had a whole lot of Brutes on Beer for Breakfast. Okay. Just the Reader's Digest of what is a Brute IPA.
Without getting too nerdy about it or letting Paul go ahead and do his business on it,
Go ahead, man.
what you're looking at is just a really dry IPA. It's the lower sugars to keep it extremely dry without getting too bogged down. And I can
Like brewed
Paul speak
champagne,
on it.
right?
Absolutely.
Brewed is dry.
Absolutely.
So a lot of brewers are using enzyme to get their beers drier than usual or normal. You guys don't use enzyme.
This was a take on this style that Ken decided to go with, where instead of using these enzymes to break down to aid in the sugar breakdown, we're just using a lower and extended mash for that to use your verbiage for a well attenuated IPA.
Right.
So you're going to get a really low end in gravity on this beer. It comes out about 6.4.
It's really hoppy.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
the
there's-
style originated in San Francisco, to my knowledge. It's where it kind of first started and picked up.
I think Drake's might have been.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that the bubbles, they just kind of dance on my tongue.
Sure.
They're like, it's a little bit of like a little,
Well, now that we're in like 2 beers deep and stuff, it's like...
things are dancing, stuff's happening.
Would you say it's almost spritzy, Danielle?
It is kind of spritzy, Paul. Paul made up that word one day. Yeah.
And I haven't been able to.
It's your wife's favorite word.
Yeah, I know.
It's great. It's easy drinking. You get
Whoever-
that hot presence.
I mean, you guys nailed it with this. I know with brewed IPAs, because there's not much residual sugar there, you have to take the bitterness units down.
Sure,
Do
we
you guys
know.
know what the bitterness units are?
I think they're quite low on this.
I would say non-existent.
like 25 to 30.
I'm not tasting it.
25.
25?
Wow, great call.
So it's definitely like hoppy, but also bitter. Like not super bitter, but balanced bitter. And it just, you get all that really nice floral and
Yeah, you got to have a little
herbal
hop. You don't want it to
hoppiness.
end up with a hop water, because a lot of times these styles, when you get the sugars way down, you end up with kind of a lackluster.
I think that this would
profile
be
sometimes.
a really good beer to give somebody who comes in who may not know a lot about craft beer, and the first thing they say to you is, I don't want anything hoppy, don't give me an IPA.
Yeah.
And be like, well, wait, hold on, because I think that this would be it, because it's not very bitter, but you get all of that hop aroma and taste behind it.
We were able to actually change some people's opinions when we came out with our Hazy Little Thing too last year. It was a surprise, and for those people that would say, like you just said, like, I don't like hoppy beers, and they would taste it and they would be pleasantly surprised. So I think between Sierra Nevada, Brewed IPA, it just kind of shows you what we're looking at on a trajectory now of our portfolio. You know, we want to open up to all consumers, and we want to make sure that we can kind of get in with all of them and have them be able to taste something from Sierra Nevada that they can take with them and go, hey, I really enjoyed that. You're not always going to be right.
Right.
You know, it's a hit and a miss.
So for a while now, you guys have been doing a lot of cool one-offs that, you know, that people have never tried before. And I think the market right now, people just want what's new and shiny.
100%.
And so you guys are doing stuff for like everybody now.
Trying.
It's got to make your jobs a lot easier. You know.
Sure. When you talk about when you look at Sierra Nevada like a legacy brand, you hear that term thrown around a lot. Where you can't just go with what keeps the lights on. You got to try the new stuff. You got to engage new drinkers.
Right.
But I think that something that Sierra Nevada does that kind of keeps you sparking and keeping interested is your yearly releases. You know, like Celebration, like waiting for that, like all of these ones that you wait for the season for it to roll around. Sure. I think that that's what also keeps you guys relevant and not to mention just the solid beers that you're making.
Well, yeah, we were talking with Paul earlier, and quality came up, and that was a little bit of our conversation. And quality's been a very, very important part of our portfolio ever since we started. So, we want people to enjoy the purest ingredients and the finest, purest ingredients of what they're getting, with our beers, and that's hopefully what they're going to enjoy.
Well, speaking of quality, congrats on landing Charlie Bamforth from UC Davis.
News that came
quality
across this
control
morning.
Cheers to
department.
Charlie.
Cheers to
Yes,
Charlie.
I saw that.
He's a good man, and he'll probably make quite the impact there.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to say, I was at High Dive not long ago, and Ryan, the owner there, had just tapped a fresh keg of Sierra, and him and I were just going, okay, man, let's have that first pint. I think everybody, I'll speak on behalf of everybody, I'll have the audacity.
You know where to find them.
Every year, everybody waits with great anticipation for that beer to come out, and Bigfoot.
It almost turns into a competition of who is drinking the most Celebration when it comes out.
Sure.
Because I hear this talked about, how many pints have you had so far?
There's just something about that beer that's just always resonated with people, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the style. I don't know if it's the flavors and the taste, but if we've ever hit a home run, we definitely hit it with Celebration. After Pale Ale, of course, and then other beers like Bigfoot. We've got a pretty good. We've done a pretty good job with our portfolio, but we're always trying to get better, just like everybody else.
Well, there's a lot of love for you guys out there, and I think maybe, because of this resilience, I think, Ken thinking maybe 200 breweries will sign up for it, and 1,500.
2,000, yeah, whatever.
I think that just kind of shows the love that everybody has, the whole community has for you guys, and all the work and all the good things you guys have done over the years.
100%.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, Anthony, Chris, thank you so much for making time available to come and talk to us about Sierra Nevada. And, you guys represent a really awesome company who, like I said, has been majority of ours first craft beer, our entrance into it. So thank you both.
No, you're very welcome, and we appreciate
Cheers to
everything.
you
And
guys.
thanks to Ryan Murphy for setting this up and helping us get in contact with you guys, and we definitely appreciate that.
And more than anything, thanks. It's all about the beer, but thank you for having us on for such a great cause too, because we're talking about
Thanks for coming on.
Resilience
Resilience
means a lot.
huge,
Please drink
yes.
resilience.
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
thanks, buddy.
Can I come do this again next week?
I think so. How about, do you want to come in on Friday morning on the Moog Show?
Yes.
Okay, so check it out. Every Friday morning, Paul comes in to tell Moog and Jared and myself, as well as you, what you should be drinking this weekend. So I'm pretty sure Resilience is going to be making an appearance on Beer for Breakfast this week. And if you want to check out any of the previous episodes of Beer for Breakfast ABV, they're all up at 91x.com. Thank you so much, and cheers to independent craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.
91X.